Let's talk about Cam Akers for a second. You know, he was the guy who was drafted almost to be a Todd Gurley replacement, which is just unfair for him to live up to because Todd Gurley was awesome. So obviously, it's going to be more difficult for Akers to live up to that. But at the same time, you know, he was drafted very high and I thought played well last year, especially down the stretch. His numbers aren't otherworldly by any means. I remember predicting that he was going to end up being the offensive rookie of the year, just given how running backs hit the ground running, so to speak. And I thought in that offense, it would be great. At the beginning, it didn't quite work out that way, but sort of towards the end of the season is when it really picked up. And a lot of it was just getting to playing time, whether it's just through injuries or just not playing in general. But towards the end of the season, when he really started playing, he really got his groove, and he even had over 200 rushing yards in the two playoff games he had combined. So 222 rushing yards in 2 games. That's pretty good. So let's talk about what he did well, and we'll start off with this play. So you see the blocking concept on your screen, and one of the things that I love about a running back is a running back who can just, turn a 5 to 7 yard run into like a 30-yard run. Someone who can break free and get more yards than just, like 8. Because yes, turning a 4-yard run into an 8-yard run is good. That matters. It matters a lot more when you can get an explosive run, which Akers is capable of. And watch how he's going to be able to do it. So Akers is going to take the ball, and I mean, the first way he's able to do it is just it was well blocked by LA. So obviously that helps. But now you see that there is a 49ers player who's running over, trying to tackle him, and basically forcing him directly into the other one, the one I've circled in black, up sort of towards the top left corner of the screen. So essentially what you would expect from Akers here is he would, run forward and kind of just run into the safety, get tackled there. There's not a lot of room. He could try to run to his right, but again, if he even steps in that direction, it might be too much and he might end up getting tackled immediately. However, he has the explosiveness to do it and then makes a move to get by him, and then he breaks the explosive play. I mean, that's a huge deal. If you can find a way to get by a safety, that can turn what was a, good run into a great one. And that's kind of the thing is, you look at guys like Aaron Jones, for example. Part of what he means so much to that offense is the way he makes those explosive runs. Well, that's definitely something we've seen from Akers a time or two, and maybe once he gets more playing time, we'll see even more of it. Like, let's talk about this play now, because again, if we're talking about lateral movement, this is a great play to talk about that. So watch what's going to end up happening on this one. Right when this play starts, Akers takes the handoff, and basically the way he's supposed to read this is he reads it from his right to his left, which is to our left to our right. And essentially, he just goes until he sees a gap he can run through, and then he try to run through that gap. And vision is very important, but also just being able to move laterally is incredibly important as well. But watch what he can do. He makes one move, then makes another, and is able to get over and shows a little bit of power too as well. So again, it's that footwork, it's his ability to move quickly laterally. That's something that I do think is a very key part of his game and something that really impressed me. And I think it's a big reason why the Rams drafted him in the first place is because of stuff like that. And then you can do stuff like this, which is another great example of what he brings to the table. And this is in that New England Patriots game, which if you didn't watch it, he was a monster in that game. That was really his coming out party in a lot of ways. He ended up with 171 yards rushing in that game, another 23 receiving. So he had nearly 200 yards combined. His career high before that was 84 just 2 weeks ago. But this play itself is nothing too fancy. I mean, Akers is going to take the ball from the quarterback's left and then run to the quarterback's right. I mean, okay, a little bit fancy, I guess, but nothing crazy. However, you can call this kind of stuff because you know he can move laterally well. I mean, look, as you see, that's exactly what's going to happen. It's a good play by Cam Akers. It's nothing crazy, but you can do that kind of stuff with him. And I also want to talk about this play because it's kind of a similar thing here on this one, where what's going to happen is that's the key block. And by similar, really what I mean is you'll see a little bit of the lateral movement, but another thing you probably noticed on that play was his acceleration, and that is a key factor in any running back's game, but especially with Cam Akers because he does accelerate well. So you're going to have a tight end who's flashing over to block, and just watch that block. Don't even worry about Akers. Just watch this. I mean, look, as you see, block does not go well, okay? So it happens. Everyone misses the block. Won't get too hard on Everett there, but Still, a missed block. And now, typically, what happens is that Akers would be in trouble. He would get tackled, and that would be the end of the play. But what Akers is going to do is he's going to use his acceleration and his footwork to his advantage. Watch him just sidestep him, and again, use that acceleration to get as many yards as possible. And again, stuff like that is what I look for in a player. And one thing that I think we saw with a lot of rookie running backs is that a lot of them didn't really get off to a hot start. Really only James Robinson, weirdly, who was the undrafted guy, just sort of hit the ground running. A lot of these guys, they just took a minute. Akers was no exception, but again, a lot of it was just playing time more than anything. But I think a big part of it is just like, it helps to have a preseason, and these guys did not have a preseason. So maybe Akers' rookie season didn't quite live up to the hope from a second-round rookie running back just because they tend to do well right away, and he did do well, just took him a minute, and I think the reason is simply because of the, he didn't have a preseason, and I think he'll probably be really good next year. And one more thing that we just have to talk about is this guy has unexpected power. So I'm just showing the blocking concept on one side of the screen. I've circled 33. He is the closest unblocked man. And I just want to talk about Cam Akers' power because you see him and you're not surprised when I tell you he has good lateral movement, that he accelerates well. That stuff you can kind of tell from his body type that makes sense, that he would be good at that stuff. What you wouldn't expect is that he has power, but he absolutely does. I mean, watch this play and watch him just sort of lower the shoulder and just run over a safety, get to the 1 yard line. That's a good play. And if you can run people over, that does so much. I feel like a big part of it is you don't want to get ran over. It's not fun to get ran over. And then if you're kind of playing a little bit more timid, then he can just run by you. And if you sort of go lower or dive quicker, then he can go by you. So it makes it really difficult, and he's a tough back to bring down, and I think that's why you saw him have some really good games last year and really sort of get into his own kind of later in the season, especially because, again, if you look at his yards per attempt earlier on in the season, it definitely had a huge jump. It was really in that San Francisco game where he had that one big run in Week 12, and from that point on, he was significantly better. So he still had a game where he averaged under 2 yards per attempt against Arizona, but a lot of that was outside of his control, and he really, put it into high gear in the playoffs. So there's a lot to like about Cam Akers. There really is, and I like this pick at the time, and I like it now. I mean, San Francisco, they have a mindset of, we're going to be good now. Will Cam Akers be good 10 years from now? Probably not. No running back is. But do we care? No, because we're trying to be good now, and having a good running back helps us be good now. So I like Cam Akers. I think he's a good player. I am not one of those people that says running backs don't matter. I think they do, and I think that there is evidence to back that up. It's not just a hunch that running backs do help your team. You can argue how much, but they do help your team. And again, will he be a Todd Gurley? Probably not, which that would really help the team. The big jump between having like a top 5 guy and just a good guy is significant, but it's still better to have a good guy than no halfback situation at all. So I like Cam Akers. That's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.